Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Bryan from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
Welcome back to another episode of the Security Squawk Podcast, where we break down the craziest and most important stories in cybersecurity so you don't have to read 50,000 articles to keep up. I'm your host, Bryan Hornung, and joining me as always are my partners in digital defense, Randy, Bryan, and Reginald Andre. What's up, guys? How are you?
Doing good. 82 degrees and nice and sunny here. How about you, Bryan?
Stop.
Hot and sunny in Texas, too.
Stop. You know it's miserable here. We get this nor'easter that you guys just keep talking about. It's actually making the news that you guys are talking about it, which is even more ridiculous.
It caused a cold front in Miami on Sunday. The weather got down to 75. People had to stay indoors, man.
Yeah. Sweatshirts.
Lowest attendance in church that last Sunday.
Had to bust out the Miami Dolphin sweatshirts.
Well, that's it. All right. I'll shut up now.
Yeah.
So we got a fun lineup this week, and by fun I mean it kind of makes IT pros pull out their hair. We're going to talk about universities getting their payrolls hijacked by phishing pirates, how your help desks are becoming the weakest link in identity security, and it's not always about sophisticated cyber criminals, guys, when it comes to some of these hackings and breaches that we hear about. And we got a teenager who thought hacking power schools, if you remember that one, that was when all the schools had their kids' information breached. This kid thought it would be a quick flex, but he might end up spending the rest of his time flexing in prison. So grab a coffee, secure your endpoints. Let's dive in as we get into it with Andre. Kicking things off with this one, universities are finding out the hard way that higher education doesn't always mean higher cybersecurity. And apparently, cyber criminals are running some pretty slick phishing campaigns targeting university payroll systems. What's happening here, Andre? Fill us in.
Yeah, so Microsoft is actually bringing this one to the table, and they're saying that since March of this year, they have observed 11 successful compromised accounts from 3 universities. So they're saying that hackers have sent out to about 25 different universities, 6,000 emails. And what they're basically doing is they're trying to trick the employees to clicking an email. And they're using a HR platform called Workday and using some other ones. And Workday is similar to like ADP Payroll or one of those companies, but specifically this is what the universities are using. So an employee gets an email, a phishing email. It's something that says, hey, you have there's been a COVID exposure from one of the students. Of course, the employee wants to click on it. They click on it, and it brings them to a fake Workday-like website where the employee then puts in their username, their password, and their 2FA. And now the bad guys are able to harvest that, and they on their back end now go in and change the employee payroll information as far as the automatic deposit of account information and so forth. So what Microsoft is basically saying is they're going in, they're changing salary information, and I guess these professors are making a lot of money because it's taking them months to even figure out that they haven't gotten paid in a couple of payroll cycles. I know for me, first person that's going to let me know if there's no money in my bank is my mortgage company. So it goes a couple of months, and now they're realizing they're backtracking and doing the research and realizing that this happened. So I have a couple of issues with this. The biggest one that I saw was that a Workday spokesman said that they encourage our customers to enable phishing-resistant MFA methods and add extra steps around sensitive changes like payroll to protect against threats like these. So when I read that, I was like, wait, but you're the payroll company. You're the one that can control if an ACH routing number gets changed. there should be a phone call. There should be something that you now tell that employee this information has been changed. So, so nevertheless, if it's starting happening in universities, it's only a matter of time till it trickles down to the small businesses. So be careful.
Yeah, I see a lot of emails like this as a CEO, Andre. A lot of phishing emails that come in that are acting like they're an employee. Got one a couple of weeks ago that came in. It was a employee that hasn't worked here for me in like 12 years probably. And it wasn't even their actual Gmail address. It was just some rando Gmail address. But anyway, it was asking, how do I change where my payroll gets sent?
Right.
See those pretty regularly in our quarantine. So
yeah, and it's just showing you, because remember how we've talked about so many times how universities have gotten breached. The lists of all employees have now been sold on the dark web. So we're just seeing a creative way of these bad guys using that.
Yeah, and I can imagine that, like, even as we speak, there's criminals over there, playing around. I call it ChatGPT, playing around with some kind of bad version of ChatGPT or, some other local LLM, and they've taken the guardrails off of, and they're over there using AI to come up with even more, more creative ways to phish, to get in, to steal money or whatever. It's exploding is the way it appears right now.
This is the old smash and grab, right? This is a new smash and grab, because these are types of things like you're going to catch it, right, fairly quickly. As Andre says, like when somebody knows their money doesn't show up, whether it's your, one of your vendors or one of your mortgage company or an employee who doesn't get paid, you're going to pick up on that pretty quickly, I think, these days. And, it's a one-time thing, right? They're going to get that salary diverted one time, maybe, unless somebody's independently wealthy or has a bunch of money and they just don't pay attention to their finances like that. I think that's a small percentage of the world. But at the end of the day, it's the smash and grab of the digital era, right? Where back in the day, criminals used to walk into a store, usually a jewelry store, smash the case and just grab whatever they can get their hands on and run out. And this is the digital version of that. They send out these phishing attempts and they try to get people to divert their payroll funds, whether that be hacking the employee themselves or hacking somebody that works in the payroll department. Both things are legitimate scams that we see going on out there every day. And these guys are working 24/7 around the clock to try to trick everybody in the world who gets a paycheck from a company. So,
and we didn't even talk about this, but guess who's going to be responsible at the end of the day? It's going to be the employee. They're going to be because the university's not going to pay again and Workday's not going to pay again. So the employee's going to be out of that money.
Yeah. I mean, if you allow somebody to change your bank account records, right? I mean, these systems are set up to kind of be like, look, if you allow somebody in and they do this to you, it's on you. It's not on us. It's not on the payroll processor, and it's not on the employer anymore. Because back in the day, you used to have to email this stuff in or go to HR and fill out a form, right? Or an actual paper form.
Yeah.
To change this stuff. And now most companies have a portal that you can log in and self-service all this stuff, right? So if they can get into that portal, or they can get access to that portal by tricking you with the credentials, it's game over, right? They're at least going to get one paycheck sent to them.
Right.
So,
yeah. And that kind of makes me think of something else at the same time, Bryan, is any time in a business that ACH comes up, there ought to be some multi-layer processes that get kicked off, right? Like, we're going to talk about this a little bit in the next section, but do you have a process if an employee requests one, can they sign into a portal, that they have verified? Maybe. Do you have a way where you can reach back out to them through numbers or whatever that you already own? Like, there's just got to be stuff in place whenever you start changing ACH numbers. That ought to throw up the biggest red flags ever, in my opinion.
It should, but the way that they're doing it right now, if you allow them in, it really doesn't. Right? I know with the payroll system we use, you got a 2-factor yourself if you want to change that. And I'm pretty sure they also send an email verification that you have to click a link in order to make that final change. Right. So I think some of those things that are in place, unless they also have access to your email, it makes it really hard for them to do that. They would have to have your cell phone. In the case that I'm talking about, they'd have to have your cell phone or compromise your authenticator app or whatever you're using. They'd have to have your email account under their control as well in order to accomplish what we're talking about here. So make sure you have these things in place if they're available to you in that portal, right? Make sure you turn on that extra security because things like this are happening. And if they can just get in with a username and password and change your bank account, that is really bad, right? And you need to make sure that you have those extra security options turned on if they are available to you. Quite frankly, I think the payroll service we use, it's by default. Like you have to set your stuff up that way.
So are you saying like date of birth and social security number or last 4 digits, that's not good enough?
Cute.
All that stuff's been leaked. I had to sign into something that not earlier, but in the last 2 weeks required my date of birth. And I'm like, that doesn't do anything. Like that's all over the internet, or the dark web, probably, So anyway.
So one of the things, this is just kind of along the same lines, right, Randy, what we're about to talk about here.
Yes, it is.
Because like this is the thing with where we're at with, what am I doing here? I'm searching the internet. And I didn't mean to do that. This is the thing with this stuff is, unfortunately, it's a lot of people just being tricked socially, right? And that's the bottom line here. And it can happen in a lot of different places, as Randy's going to talk about here. And another weak link that we know is out there. And the reason we talk about these scams, folks, is because these are happening at a high rate, right? It's not just 1 or 2 companies that their employees are having their payrolls number, that bank account number change, and the payroll and the payment being diverted to a cyber criminal. It's happening to tens of hundreds of thousands, depending on the campaign and how successful these groups are running these things. Same thing here with what we're about to talk about with Randy. Another weak link where we're talking about the help desk and the unsung heroes of IT, so to speak, right? Unfortunately, they are also sometimes easy targets for attackers. So we're going to dive into how hackers are bypassing MFA and password protections by doing one thing. And they're picking up the phone, they're calling support lines, pretending to be employees, and sweet talking their way into account resets. Randy, fill us in on what's going on here.
So basically what you just said, but also we have to start. So in cybersecurity, they've been saying the humans are your weakest link. Now they've been saying that for a long time, but what we really have to start seeing is our help desk as an attack surface and as a risky attack surface. Because if you look at like all the Salesforce hacks, and they got into some big companies stuff. Now maybe they didn't get right into Google, but they got into Google's Salesforce and tons of big companies on that. A lot of the big hacks lately have been this. We talked about this, what was it, about 2 years ago, the MGM hack, where they had a 10-minute phone call where they pretended to be an IT person, and that 10-minute call resulted in them losing minimum $100 million. And so what they're doing, they've gotten really good at either the deep fakes, which is using an AI that sounds exactly like the person, or they're using someone with really, really, really good English, understanding the idioms and things like that of our local cultures. And rather than breaking in the front door, which might set off an alarm, they're just calling in and saying, hey, I need to reset my password. I can't get into blah, blah, blah. They're going out and they're getting information off of LinkedIn. They can get information off the dark web. So maybe they call into the help desk and they're like, okay, you are an admin. Can you verify your date of birth? Well, yeah, I just got it off the dark web. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And they just give them the date of birth, and then boom, they just got a password reset and they got in. And it's really going to take a mind shift, a mindset reset, if you will. And, you know, we talked about it 2 years ago at length, Bryan, when we were talking about MGM. We talked about this a lot, about social engineering, but we really need to start looking as help desk kind of, you know, help desk is one of the risky areas of the business. And we need to start doing things like, you know, adding in device trust, which, you know, may already be there most of the way, but integrate it with help desk. So you're only working on devices that you know about, phishing resistant, MFA, having some kind of verification system in place. We were talking in the green room earlier about one verification system where you basically send a blind code to the user and they have to enter it in on their end, and then it comes back and the help desk gets all clear. They entered in the blind code, and the help desk person doesn't even know the blind code. Things like that, though, where we're seeing the risk surface of the help desk, and then we're trying to basically limit that attack surface as much as we can. And it's only going to get worse with AI. So I would say that this is like top priority right now as one of the weakest links in a cybersecurity stack. Then I would also say, Bryan, one more thing. If we also view cybersecurity as not only zero trust, but segmented, and make it where if the bad guys do get in through the help desk, that doesn't give them the keys to the whole kingdom. Maybe they get into one little area. And one last thing, that brings in the need to have vision into the into everything. All of that needs to be seen. So if something over here happens, your security operations center can see that and do something about it. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this.
I don't know if you guys remember, there was a video, and it was a true story of a lady, and they put basically a fake baby crying in the background, and she was able to call the bank and convince the bank to give her access to things that she didn't even have access to, because there was sympathy from the person on the other end. So it's the same concept where, think of a CEO or someone saying, oh my gosh, I'm locked out of my meeting. I need to get in right now. I got 5 minutes to log into my Teams. I'm talking fast. All right, I'll slow down. Sorry. But basically what I'm trying to say is there are ways where you can try to sympathize with the person on the other end, and from there, you know, get them to let you in, even though they don't really recognize your voice. Also, something else that should be thought of is that your website, like if you're a IT company and you're listening to this, and you have like testimonials on your website with clients, that is a big red flag for me, because the bad guy now has been able to put 2 and 2 together. And now all they now need to do is do one of these social engineerings and say, I'm Sam, and use that voice, AI voice or whatever it is, and I need to get access and so forth like that. So some things do need to, you know, it's nice to when you have a nice big account and you want to show that off, but at the same time, the entire public doesn't need to know that. And then recently, I would say in the last 2 weeks, we actually implemented this blind trust. So with us, if you call our help desk, they will not help you until you give them the code that is sent via text or email.
Cool. Yeah, I think of a story I remember from a company that we were talking to at one point, and they didn't have like IT as integral part of their business. They outsourced it to another company, and as a result of that, they, for lack of a better term, they cut corners. And one of the things that they did is they had this lady in HR responsible for resetting passwords. And so when somebody needed a password reset, they called this woman in HR. And, they got hacked as a result of it. This person called them, and when it was looked into and they kind of found out what happened with Brenda in HR, she just said that the person on the phone sounded like somebody that she thought was from IT or from the IT company. She thought she recognized the voice and they sounded nice, is what she said. But it ended up resulting in the fact that they got the password that they needed to get into the system. So it's wild. The tech that we have just keeps getting smarter, but the humans, unfortunately, just aren't aware of this stuff, and they become victims very quickly. That's why, as you guys mentioned, training is a huge part of this. But the technology around call verification and having procedures around this stuff and separation of duties, meaning maybe Brenda, logs the call, but she's not the person who actually resets the passwords. There's some kind of check and balance in there to make sure. Those are things that you can build into your procedures that make it way harder for these guys than we're making it today. So that's kind of how I look at it. Any last thoughts there? Go move on.
Well, one last thought is I would just challenge our listeners, as you hear other breaches brought up, you're going to see more and more this social engineering aspect. And then just be thinking about how you can make your own organization more secure to things like this.
It's just a wild one, guys. We're going to wrap up the show here with this last story, straight out of, a Netflix teen drama, except the ending isn't a prom dance. It's a possible 7-year prison sentence for this guy. No, I haven't. Leave me alone. 17-year-old faces serious time for hacking power schools. If we remember that, it was a pretty big deal that, we talked about a lot on this show. I'm pretty sure I covered it on my own YouTube channel. And it was the hack that was kind of heard around the world for K through 12 schools when they found out that, like, hey, this system that we use, a lot of schools use, that has a lot of student data in it, has been hacked, has been breached. And I remember the big thing at the time, though, we were calling out power schools for how they handled the situation, right? And they were forcing the districts to kind of handle this as if it were their own breach rather than power schools owning the breach themselves. And here we go. Instead of it being one of those sophisticated hacking groups that did this, we have another 17-year-old who decided that he was going to try to do something here and ended up, I don't know what he thought he was doing anyway, but, he went through with the full, extortion of this organization. The system that these schools used for grades and student information, he was able to gain unauthorized access, leak the data, and cause major disruptions at these schools and how they do business. Authorities are using this case as a warning that even small hacks and small little-time hackers can lead to big-time consequences, right? We always focus on these big cyber criminal groups, usually out in Russia or wherever. And, we know there's other groups that exist out there in the world in other countries. And there's, groups that exist that are just loosely based on, Discord servers, right? They're in all different countries. And here we have now students literally high school students who've turned the weapons onto the schools themselves, right? And they've reached the points where students can hack their own schools easier. They can do things like log on. Like I know kids in my son's school who know how to log on to the Wi-Fi at the school.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they know how to do this stuff. They can figure it out. They're getting smarter, right?
Yep.
Every kid that grows up with this technology knows how to use it better, you know, than we do, unfortunately, right? And there's where the curiosity begins. It begins in these schools, right? They're literally sitting in class. Like my son sits in class and has to deal with blocks, and these kids are trying to figure out how to get around the blocks all day long, you know, to play video games or watch a video. Who knows? Right. But the curiosity is there, and this is where the curiosity for hacking comes into. Oh, I can do this. Well, then maybe I can do that, right? And they start testing the limits. And this is a reminder that even a harmless breach can spiral into felony charges. It's absolutely a crime. You should never do this stuff. You should never turn to the dark side of this world if you have these skills. You know, I'm always going to be a proponent of that and say that. But I'm always also going to be a realist too. The economy's not great. Kids are coming out of college with massive skills, and if they can't get jobs, I worry about what they turn to make money. So, you know, it's time for everyone, including schools, to treat their digital systems with the same seriousness as physical safety. 2025, a cyber breach can do just as much damage as a lockdown. So, thoughts on this, guys, or where your head's at on a 17-year-old causing this much havoc in the K through 12 world?
I mean, I know what you just said. They've been doing this since they were young, playing the Roblox. But do you think they got any outside help? The fact that he was using foreign servers, stolen credentials, burner phones, use a face mask when you go to ATMs. Like, is this just like YouTube stuff that he's watching in movies, and now he's just doing it in real life?
You're barking up a tree. I don't want to go up right now.
I just feel like there's something bigger here. The DOJ.
Hey, dude, hey, you're going.
No hacker.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on out there.
That's really great question, man. And like what Bryan said, man, I think you're barking up a tree that I don't know if we have time to really go there, but wow, what if? You know what I mean? And if that's not what's happening, man, they need to try to reform this guy and get him to work for the good guys. You know what I mean? Because he's obviously got a knack for things that could be used for good.
Whatever it is. I mean, if the kid's being manipulated by some, like, you know, worldly elite power, and he's working for them, could be, who knows? Or a kid could have just watched a bunch of Netflix movies and figured life out. Who knows? Kids are very smart, and this is something we're going to have to deal with the social media. They're exposed to a lot of stuff at a very young age that most of us that are over the age of 40 weren't exposed to at these ages. Yeah. And, you know, they're going to be able to figure things out a lot quicker, I think, you know, and connect the dots a lot quicker. So for good and bad. And I think that's probably what we're seeing is a lot of that too.
Yeah, it also mentioned he also did other victims, foreign governments, and also telecom companies since 2021.
There you go. He's been working.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the kind of kid you want to hire, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, that's the kind of attitude that you want. And unfortunately, that's what I'm talking about. We got to make sure that the people end up on the right side of this.
And then he hacks into our payroll.
What?
Now, I was going to say, then he hacks into our payroll and pays himself more.
I mean, he could hack into one company and pay himself more. That's the sad part. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is hack one company, and you could get paid more in one hit than you could probably make in a year doing anything else.
Yeah.
2 years, 3 years. And that's the scary part. People are going to make the decision to do the other thing, and that's not good.
Right.
So the prosecution definitely has to be there, right? The enforcement has to be there. Otherwise, everybody's going to be like, look, you don't even get in trouble when you do this. So we will figure it out. We will keep you updated as we blow through this. But good show, guys. I mean, what we brought to the table today was very interesting, I think. If people didn't realize, today's stories had a common thread that humans are still the biggest risk in cybersecurity. Whether it's a university payroll clerk clicking a fake link, help desk resetting the wrong password, or a kid who didn't think through consequences of a harmless hack, it all comes down to awareness and accountability. So if you're running a business, here's your takeaway. Train your people. Verify everything, trust nothing, and don't assume your systems are safe just because you have fancy software. And that's it for this week's episode of Security. Actually, it's not it. I want to give a big shout out to our boy Luke over across the pond.
Yes.
To throw us some support on Buy Me a Coffee, which any of you can do. There's links in the comments and links on the posts. We appreciate the support. Make sure you subscribe, like, review, and share the show. Help feed the algorithm gods. And as I mentioned, if you want to support the show or the podcast, grab us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Security Squawk. Stay safe out there, folks. And remember, listen to the show. Don't be the next headline, because humans are a massive, massive reason hackers are successful. Stay safe. See you in the next one.
Bye, everybody.